Mike, interesting, the Eagles-Chicago game. Deshaun Jackson, the Eagles receiver, was criticized afterwards for the way he played, pregame preparation, as well as maybe not going over the middle, a little bit of alligator arms at times. Interesting was the way he took that criticism, and even more interesting is just the way our wide receivers in the NFL are being treated nowadays. It's sort of, the NFL is changing and revolving into a completely different league than what Lombardi used to coach in, and Hallis, and the way the NFL used to be, which is 3 yards in a cloud of dust. It's now throw it deep and keep these pampered guys happy.
I think that's right. This is we were talking about this earlier. This is a sort of loosely formed theory in my head here, but it's a strange thing. Deshaun Jackson got some serious criticism from his coach and reacted like a little boy, like a child. I mean, he's in the locker room with a towel over his head, so the reporters will ignore him, and he's all bent out of shape about this, and the wide receiver position is such a repository of divas and malcontents and these overly dramatic weirdos who sort of have to be placated because the NFL is such a passing league now, because it's such a finesse game now. You have guys in football, in this brutal game of football, who don't really have a football mindset, aren't really of football. It's a weird thing, and we see it everywhere in the league. These wide receivers are they're horrible. They're horrible to deal with, and it's a horrible challenge for coaches to finesse these guys and keep them happy to the extent that you can. Randy Moss, Chad Ochocinco, T.O., on and on and on.
That's where all the detriment comes from, is on the wide receiver spot, all the headaches. Running backs you don't hear as much of. The longevity of a running back seems to be very slim. The quarterbacks, the CEO of the team, it's the wide receiver position that seems to constantly be where you have to pamper and sort of tweak how you deal with that individual. Interesting with Deshaun is, I've heard people say he should never be going over the middle, and I'm thinking, but he wants to be
That's not realistic.
He wants to get paid the big bucks. He wants to be a superstar. Jerry Rice went over the middle. Well, Tim Brown went over the middle.
Sure,
I mean, it's just
it's not realistic to say that he shouldn't go over the middle. There is one thing about this that I think is a little bit new, which is we know so much more about concussion now, and Deshaun Jackson has had a couple of concussions, and I just think that whether or not it's fair or right, people are going to be more conscious of, am I doing permanent long-term damage to my body by throwing myself into these situations? And so maybe you're going to see more alligator arms. Maybe you're going to see more guys reluctant to go over the middle. But again, guys that don't really think like football players who aren't really of football. That's what the NFL has, I think, to some degree evolved into. Maybe devolved is the right word.
Devolved is a good word for it. Just one more quick thing. These guys are so into getting to their computers to tweet about stuff afterwards. You got the Steve Johnsons of the world, the Buffalo receiver that's tweeting that it's God's fault for him dropping catches. So it's devolved into, I need to get off the field or I need to get to the sideline. I have to send a tweet out to my homies.
Well, quickly about Johnson, so many athletes, when they're successful, want to thank God and want to give all the glory to God, and it happened because of God. And it doesn't seem to occur to them that every success in sports is a failure for somebody else. So why is God dumping on the guys who failed? Well, here's a guy who finally acknowledged, why are you doing this to me, God? I don't have an answer to that, and neither does he.
Yeah.